Hello and welcome
Aaron, you can
to
keep
the
dancing.
show. What? Oh,
I'll duck it. Go ahead. All right. Intro.
hello and welcome to New Mexico Day Trips. I'm your host, Shelley Carney.
I'm your co-host, Toby Eunice. Back to you, Shelley.
Oh, tonight we're going to talk about a trip Toby took, and he had to go without me, and he was sad.
I was sad. It was really hard. I didn't enjoy it as much as I usually do. But on the other hand, I got a lot of work done, and I didn't have to make her dinner. There's good news, and there's good news, and there's bad news. I didn't have to feed her.
Oh, like
no,
I'm such a big eater.
You're not a big eater.
I am. I like to eat.
All right. So, honestly, I guess I should take the lead on this since I was responsible for it. But then I have some news. Well, let's tell the story. I actually tell it in the video. But the story was Shelley has been working on a project that was due yesterday, right? Today. And it was.
But I finished on Monday. So.
But it required a lot of effort.
Yes.
Tell us about it. Tell us about your project.
It is my signature course. It's called Livecast Lifestyle, and it's all about how to livecast video, podcast, and blog at the same time every week. And it's also basically setting up your entire content marketing for your business. So it is very intensive. It's got a lot to it, and I had to finish it up over the weekend. I had been working on it since late May, early June. And it's been quite the project this year, and I finally finished it. So I'm very proud.
And she did it all by herself. This was not one that I was involved in for a variety of reasons, including she made a commitment to a group of people who set up this kind of, I don't know, what do you call the stack? What is it?
Well, it's a content creator stack of products for content creators, and it'll be like courses and books and coaching and all kinds of things like that.
And they called and they contacted you to.
Yep, they reached out to me.
And you decided, and that was what you decided to do was this training course, video training course, on the topic of
live streaming. Well, it's the content consistency framework and schedule. Right. It's a whole content marketing implementation program is what it is.
And how many videos did you have to produce as well?
There's 32 videos in it.
And each one has its own slide presentation.
Yes.
Its own bit of content.
Yes.
So that was a lot of work.
And resources.
And then organizing it into, did you put that in Vanza?
Yes.
Yeah. So people can go have a place to go to.
That's right.
So can you advertise this outside of the stack?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you?
You can go to program.
Hold on. Wait. Let's do this. Program.
There it is.
AGKmedia.studio.
Yes.
The other thing I want you to spend after we take a look at this. Okay. Oh, I love that picture.
I know, because it's like lifestyle magazine.
Yeah. So this is the course. You find it at program.agkmedia.studio. I will put that in the chat room, and I'll put it in the description box below so you guys can have access to it. So let me put that in there. So it's program.agkmedia.studio.
That's it.
Right. And you can sign up for it here, right?
That is correct.
Get access for it.
Get access now. You click that button, you're on your way.
Okay. So you also set up, I want to open another window here. You also set up a new membership.
That is
thing.
Correct.
What's that at?
Membership.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't have any lines in it. I can't see. Membership.
Take the O out.
Membership.agkmedia.studio. There it is.
Got
it. There's the application. So
that's the application. We're trying to see if there's enough interest out there to start a membership group for content creators in the second half of life who want a peer group to hang out with and talk about each other's channels and what app do you use and what kind of equipment do you use and all that fun stuff.
And I'm actually part of that. I'm not part of the first one, the program.agkmedia.studio, but I am part of the second one, membership.agkmedia.studio.
As you can see the picture of him
because
right there.
I'm up there because
Video tech expert.
I'm on the technical side
That's
of all of that. So if you get a chance to go, at least go visit them and take a look at them, see what you think. It might be useful for you, or it may not be. But at some point, you look at this stuff and say, this could be useful to me because I'm an encore
entrepreneur,
and I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
I'm in the second half of my life. Look at
that's right.
I want to promote
my
goes
business.
from running a high-tech technology business to planting pecans.
Well, I don't think he planted them so much as he's just taking care of the trees. I think they were
well,
there.
Still, that's encore. That's his second career. He's going to make that his second career.
He is.
He's going to move down
and
to
he
Las
could have his own
Cruces.
YouTube channel all about pecan groves.
That's the way I see it.
And bring people on down. Because, we drive down to Socorro every couple times a month, and there's always those big old signs, pistachios. Oh, come to pistachio land. And all the way down and all the way back, we see all about pistachios. So you can kind of do the same thing for pecans.
Yeah
You
got to market those babies.
It's fun. We pick out all the billboards. And there they are. Keller and Keller.
Keller and Keller.
We mean business.
She says I'm driving. She's the one.
That's what the billboard says. We mean business.
So I have to tell you the story about descansos. Do you know what descansos are? Descansos are those crosses that you see on the highway. And we drive up to northern New Mexico, and they're everywhere. And I would have to point out oh, God, there's another one. Oh, God, there's another one.
And I finally told him, you know what? Get over it.
Yeah.
They're going to be there. We don't need to discuss it every single time we drive anywhere in New Mexico.
Well, so here's the
and then
funny
2
part.
seconds,
Wait,
2 seconds after he agreed, oh, yeah, okay, you're right. I'll stop. And then 2 seconds later, there was this Christmas tree descanso. It was just huge and tinsel everywhere. We both saw it and just laughed.
That was the funny part. Is we were driving, and I remember very specifically, we were driving south along the Rio Grande, there near in the area around Pilar, right? And she had just given me this kind of like, I'm really getting tired of you. Every time we see a descanso, you have to say something
negative, something negative.
Right? It's never positive. Like, oh, praise God, let's pray. Let's pray for the death, whoever this drunk guy drove off the side of the road. And so she gave me the speech.
It's Dia de los Muertos today.
Yeah, exactly.
Be careful there.
I better be careful. And so she gave me this little speech, which I very much appreciated. And I said, okay, you know what? You're right. I agreed with her. Not that I always do, but in this case, I thought, yeah, maybe I pushed too far. We came around a turn, and I swear it was
taunting you.
It was like there just to so descansos could make the point that I can't give it up. And it was a big cross, and it wasn't even down on the ground.
I think I'm out. Somebody pulls me back in.
Somebody had stuck a pole in the ground, tied it to the guardrail, and it was 6 feet in the air. You couldn't miss it. And then it was a cross, and they had wrapped, that Christmas tinsel. It's not tinsel. Garland. The tinsel garland around it in all directions, and there was Christmas ball. I don't think it was even Christmas. But
no, it wasn't.
But I had to say it was.
I think it was April.
Damn it! I've given up on this. But did you see that one? So anyway, here's the rest of that story. So we're driving down to Socorro, down and back to around Socorro. We're going to one of our one-day trips, and there were these billboards for Keller and Keller, a law firm in New Mexico. And this means, he was always the guy pointing his finger. This means you, or now it's the time, or whatever it was. What was this?
We mean business.
We mean business. So every time she saw one.
And then it was, tell them you mean business.
Well, every time we saw one, she'd scream it out loud. I'm trying to drive, patiently and watching the road, making sure I don't run over anything.
I thought it was a funny phrase.
And she would just scare the crap out of me every time she did it.
Oh, please.
A jump like that.
Sure.
Anyway, we're getting closer to Albuquerque. Actually, we're between Los Lunas and Albuquerque, that one stretch of I-25 there where it goes to 3 lanes. And she hits another one. And I said, wait a minute, I'm going to invoke the descanso rule. It's now a rule. The descanso rule is you can say it X number of times, and then after you say it the 9th time.
That was one trip. You say it every single time we go anywhere.
I've been pretty quiet about descansos, even though I've seen some good ones. I'm still thinking about, there's a book in there somewhere. Just travel north and south on I-25, east and west on I-40, take pictures of descansos. And here's what and I know this for a fact. So one of the years I was in high school, I used to always get jobs.
There's a video. Why make a book? Just do a video.
Because the book, well, you do both, of course.
Oh,
right?
of course.
Of course.
Because we mean
one of the
business.
summers, I worked as an intern at the New Mexico State Department of Transportation, the Highway Department. We used to call it the Highway Department back then. And I was responsible. I wasn't responsible. They give you a crappy job. And the crappy job was taking police reports, state police reports of accidents on the highways, on the New Mexico highways, and coding them so that they could put them into a computer. And this was back in the days of cards. So you code them. So if it was a passenger car, it was one code. If it was a truck, it was another code. If it was a dump truck, it was another code. If alcohol was involved, it had another code. So I know all this data. They are required by law to keep this data. The federal government requires them to do it so that they can actually, they use all that data for providing funds, federal funds for their highways, right? So I know the data is out there. So and one of the things that you had to collect on the data was the GPS location of the accident. So here's my idea. You go to the desk console, you take a couple of pictures, you take the GPS location, then you go to state highway. And this is public information. You don't need to FOIA this. You can walk into that. Well, it used to be paper, but now, of course, it's all automated. You can go into the state highway department or Department of Transportation in Santa Fe. I guess you could go to the Albuquerque one, sit at a computer, enter in those coordinates, and it would tell you all the information.
You can't do it from home?
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if you could.
Well, there you go.
Because it's public information.
Even that much easier.
Right. It's public information. They have to provide you access to it without FOIA. Anyway, then you write a book and you have a picture of this console and you talk about what caused that accident. And I'm willing to bet that a significant portion of these accidents were caused by a drunk driver. Yet there's his little cross with his Esquipula Martinez name on it and the year of his birth. 2020, 21, 201, and death of 2019. He's a drunk 18-year-old. And that's the story. There's a lot of
How sad.
And here's another one. The year that I was working there was this beautiful woman. Damn it, I'll never remember her name. Well, I was it should not have been because you weren't even born yet.
Lorraine.
No.
Kaya.
It wasn't Helen. It was, anyway, she was just beautiful.
Wasn't Kaya?
And everybody in the department loved her. She used to invite me to lunch. We'd go down to the lunchroom. And I was just like, every guy was going like, why is she inviting him to lunch? I was just a kid. I had a big crush on her. I don't think she knew that I had a big crush on her, but I had a big crush on her. And anyway, at some point during the summer, her husband was killed in an auto accident between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Here's the thing. He was with another woman at the time, and she was killed. And there was alcohol involved. He was coming back. They'd gotten drunk in Albuquerque, driving back to Santa Fe, and he had an accident. She didn't have a funeral for him. She just had him buried.
Karma.
That's what you get.
Don't do that.
Before this show is over, I'm going to remember that name.
Wasn't Kaya? I thought that's the book we were writing.
No,
it was a different one.
Oh no, Kaija.
Oh,
Kaija Oman. That was the singer, the guitarist.
Oh,
that's a
different person.
Different person.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Person. Different story. Get them mixed up.
See her, the short black hair and the slim face, and the little skirts.
It'll come to you later.
It'll come to me later.
All right. Are we going to show the video?
Yeah. Do you want to show the video? So here's the story. The story is Shelley was
a lovely lady
working. The lovely lady was working
on a course all weekend.
So and I had to go and get the content for tonight's show that you're going to see.
So
So I had to do it on my own, which wasn't bad. I mean, it's not the first time that I've done this. This is how you actually, when you think about it, that's how I usually worked over my career anyway. So I went out and I wanted to find something reasonably close, but very interesting. And what I found was the Pecos National Historical Monument. I'm going to show you their website because honestly, they deserve more attention.
Pay attention to them. Put attention, you
fellow. So this is them, the Pecos National Historical Park
kind of
in New Mexico.
Mayan or something.
It does. Well, you got to remember that all these Native Americans over in this area had some influence from Mexico, right? So anyway, take a look at the park. And one of the interesting things I found out about this interview, when I did the interview, was, let me see, news, things. Where's the things to do?
Things to do, plan your visit, places to go, things to do, people to see.
Look at this. Look at this. Scroll down. And there is a 3-mile section of the Pecos River that is on park property. And so when I was doing the interview, and that's not in tonight's show, I'll tell you about it another time. I said, about that 3 miles, can you fish on it? And she said, oh, yeah, you can. You have to reserve it by day. And they call them beats. There are 3 beats, 3 different locations along the river that if you get it, that's where you go to fish. Mm-hmm. And the requirements are use artificial flies or artificial lures with a single barbless hook. But if you catch brown or rainbow, you can keep up to 5. If you catch what they call natives, which are the cutthroat and the grayling, you have to return them. But keeping a trout on a barbless hook is a pain anyway, because if they don't swallow it, you're not going to get that fish out of the water. Anyway, that season ends November 7th. And I'm going to try and get one of the beats over the weekend. So I'll record that, not kind of as a show, but just kind of put my chesty on so you can follow me. And I'm going to go fishing on the Pecos inside the Pecos National Historic Park.
Sunday's the last day.
Yeah. Well, there's another last day story.
All day Saturday.
Why am I doing Saturday?
We're doing the Marigold Parade and the Marine Corps Ball.
Well, I decided we're not going to do marigolds. I mean, we're not going to do Dia de los Muertos.
Oh.
We have a show for next week, and we're going to tell you more about that in just a minute.
Oh, see, first I'm hearing that.
Yeah, I know. I kept meaning we were so busy with various things the past couple of days, I didn't get a chance.
Yeah, watching TV.
I wasn't watching TV.
We were just watching TV a little bit ago, just before the show.
After dinner, for God's sakes.
Well, yeah, but we were busy.
For my dinner. Okay, what are we supposed to be doing here?
Showing this video that you made?
Showing the video. Okay. Let's stop that for right now. I don't want to do that early. Okay. So here is the video from the Pecos, documentary style video from the Pecos National Historical Park. All right, here we go. Put attention. Hey everybody, this is Toby Eunice with New Mexico Day Trips. So 2 things. Number 1, I'm headed to the Pecos National Historic Park, just west of Santa Fe. Historical. Most of the trip is on I-25. The second thing is that Shelley isn't with me today, and the reason that she's not with me is that she has a project, a big training project that is due on Wednesday. And so she couldn't make the trip today. She wanted to go, as usual, because we always have a good time in our travels, but not today. Right now we're going through the town of Bernalillo, and just about a mile away, we will merge onto I-25 north towards Santa Fe. The cottonwoods along the Rio Grande are beautiful and yellow. I'll have to make sure I get some more drone footage of that when I return home this afternoon. All right, enjoy. We are on our way.
You and your task cam. Notice how the everything kind of changes because you're going uphill. Mm-hmm. Desert scrub to
Ponderosa
and
Pinon. Hey everybody, I'm at the Pecos National Historic Park, and I've just set up a time lapse. Actually, I haven't started it yet. You can see it on there. And I'm going to take a time lapse because we're expecting cloudy weather later in the afternoon, and I want to make sure that we get this shot before the afternoon clouds run in. So you'll see me get it started right here. There's a piece of software that called the DJI Mimo app that controls the action camera and the pocket camera, etc. So I'm controlling it from the phone so I can keep an eye on it. So the time lapse has started. It's actually a motion lapse, so it will swing from left to right. It will take 30 minutes. So while the time lapse is running, I've set up a chair, and I think I'm going to make myself a little cup of coffee because I left early enough this morning that I didn't get my coffee. I don't have my big stove with me today, just my compact one.
You sure we're not having Mexican food?
Dun chan chan, dun chan chan.
Fancy coffee pot.
I bought it when I was in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Two big scoops of grounds. That's a pretty strong coffee.
And it's Folgers.
For that little bit of water you put in there.
Black silk. Is it lit?
Is it lit? Is my hand on fire? Is this knife sharp? Is this coffee hot? Baby formula?
Sweetener and cream.
Yes.
Baby formula. Yeah.
Oh, your baby formula.
Yeah, New Mexico baby formula.
Such a nice
Okay,
day.
it looks like the time lapse is done. So I'm going to do a quick check here, make sure it turned out okay.
My name is Becky Latonich. I'm the Chief of Interpretation and Education, and I work for Pecos National Historical Park. Pecos National Historical Park originally began its life as Pecos National Monument in 1965, when it was really focused on the preservation of Pecos Pueblo and the ruins of the mission churches that were here on site. But Pecos expanded really significantly in the 1990s when we acquired a considerable increase in the amount of acreage and added things to the story that included Santa Fe Trail, the pre-1937 Route 66, the Civil War Battle of Glorieta Pass, the Forked Lightning Ranch, and about 3 miles of the Pecos.
What was the name of the ranch?
Forked Lightning, but she says Forked Lightning whenever she referred to it.
Oh.
We really say that our period of significance It's from roughly 10,000 years ago to present day. So the bulk of the focus is really from about 1,000 years ago, when settlement begins here on the mesa in earnest and all the history that follows that. But we have evidence of this as a corridor for people for at least 10,000 years as they move between the Rio Grande Valley and the plains to the east. There's not really a name for the people, but they are going to be the ancestors of the Pueblo people. And those are the folks who are going to take up agriculture and a more sedentary way of life, and over time begin an aggregation that will eventually result in the many Pueblos that we have here on site. So the Spanish first arrived on site in the winter of 1540-41, and that's very well documented. And it was Alvarado and his men that were sent as a sort of a party ahead of the Coronado expedition, and they were coming for a variety of reasons. One was to ensure that Pecos Pueblo, which was the most economically powerful of all the pueblos, being the easternmost and the closest to the plains, was paying, if you will, appropriate tribute to the Spanish crown. So they wanted to ensure. They also wanted to know more information about the bison that there were rumored to exist on the Great Plains, and this again being the easternmost of the pueblos. It was a launching pad to go out and see if these creatures really existed. And then the third component that happens as the Spanish come here to Pecos is that they renew their quest to find Cibola, or the Seven Cities of Gold, or Quivira, or whatever you want to call the magical mythical place that they were searching for, that they had imagined had a lot of riches and gold and whatnot.
This small hole in the floor is called a sipapu, which symbolizes the Pueblo people's emergence from the underworld. Many Pueblo people see the kiva as a depiction of their universe, with the sipapu representing what lies below, the kiva floor symbolizing this world, and the roof entry representing what is above.
We're right on the eastern side of Glorieta Pass, and Glorieta Pass is the lowest pass in the southern Rocky Mountains. And unless you go through Glorieta Pass, you're going to end up going all the way down to Albuquerque and coming back up. And so for 10,000 years, people have used this relatively low pass in the Rockies to pass between those two worlds, the Rio Grande Valley and the plains. In addition to that, Pecos' original name in the Towa language means the place above the water. And if you've been in New Mexico long, you know that being located in close proximity to water is a very big deal and adds a lot of economic advantage. So between having Glorieta Creek right here and the Pecos River right here, and being the easternmost of the Pueblos and at the gateway to both the plains and the Rio Grande Valley, it was really a powerful geographic location to take advantage of. The site itself has a 1.25 mile loop that goes around the entirety of North Pueblo, South Pueblo, and the Spanish Mission Church. And it is mostly accessible for people with physical challenges. About 80% of the trail is. And it has with it a brochure that you can buy at the Western National Parks Association bookstore for $2 that will guide you through what it is that you're seeing along the way. I think one of the things that's extra nice to point out is that it is pet friendly. So we do encourage people to recreate with their dogs as well. And I think that's kind of a unique aspect of our trail. There are actually 4 churches here on site. So the church that you see today is the 4th of all of them. The first church that was built prior to 1621 was actually nearby, but not within the boundaries of the Pueblo. So it was tolerated, but at a distance. And it wasn't until 1621 through 1625 that the church was permitted to be built adjacent to the Pueblo. And of course, there are lots and lots of reasons, whole books about this topic as to how that came about. But one of the things that I like to point out is that the Spanish brought with them a lot of mixed blessings, including access to things that people had here in North America hadn't had before. So reliable sources of meat, all sources of new meat, new fruits, new vegetables, livestock, metal, all sorts of things. And Pecos was a community divided, and the community accepted or didn't the presence of the church and all of those material trappings in different ways. So I wouldn't say half tolerated and half didn't, but something like that, right? There was a group of people that were like, we'll deal with it, and the other half were like, no, not going to deal with it. So very much a community divided.
Kind of like the whole descanso debate. Going to deal with it? No, I'm not going to deal with it.
I saw folks carrying a blue handbook out there with an indication of where the. Can I buy one of those?
Yes, sir. Come on in. This little booklet
Right.
here
Yeah.
is $2, but it tells you what the
Oh, the
numbers
birdie
mean,
was
and
hiding
it's also
the,
got site map in it.
Chandeliers. The logo was hiding them. Couldn't see them
Oh.
because of the logo.
So those museum exhibits have been in there for almost 40 years, and they predate the establishment of this as a National Historical Park from the time when we were still a monument. So they don't discuss what the rest of the park is all about, and they're not technically accessible for people with mobility or vision and hearing impairments, and they were not done in consultation with stakeholders and tribes. So they look like they've held up well, but they are not as inclusive as the National Park Service would like to see them. So after many years and lots of work, they are getting removed here starting next week, and the new exhibits will be installed in the spring of 2023.
Take note of that comment.
Asterisk.
Hey everybody, this is Toby and I hope you enjoyed our little trip to the Pecos National Historical Park outside of Pecos, New Mexico. It's about 25 miles west of Santa Fe, so it's an easy drive. It's
west?
The majority of it, 98% of it's on the interstate. And then you get off on a well-developed two-lane road that leads you towards Pecos and then eventually towards the National Historical Park. It is one of the best cared for parks that I've been in. It has a lot of history associated with it, both Pueblo and Hispanic, but do yourself the favor of visiting their visitor center. It has one of the best bookstores that I've been in when it comes to books related to New Mexico, its history, the Puebloan period, the Hispanic period, the Civil War period. I mean, there were literally hundreds of books, and honestly, you can see I took advantage of that by buying some of them. I also got my challenge coin, so got that. There is a free pamphlet that comes along with your visit here, but I strongly recommend you spend the extra $2 on this booklet, because when you go to visit the site itself, it has numbered indicators, and those numbered indicators are explained further in this pamphlet. So strongly recommend you get the pamphlet, and I strongly recommend you come out and visit the site. Okay, I'm going to sign off for now. It's about 3:44 in the afternoon, so I'm going to head back to Bernalillo. Thanks for joining me today. You don't have to say that. That goes in the final. So as a reminder, we will put that video up separately, independent of this live stream. A couple of things. Number one, I do want to mention that in 1838, the last of the tribes, the last of the Towa tribes that were at Pecos, realizing that they weren't going to win any battles against the Spanish, moved, and they moved to Jemez Pueblo. And I asked her when I was speaking with her, so I didn't include all of the interview. I asked her when I was speaking with her, if you were to do genetic testing on the members or the people that live in Jemez, could you make a distinction? Could you tell the difference between the people that were originally from Jemez and the people that moved from Pecos to Jemez? And she said, yeah, we've done that. And they've participated in that research. The second thing is that I wanted to mention to you is that every year in August, because it's a religious holiday, it's going to occur on a Sunday, and so it changes from year to year. The people from Pecos, so there was this painting, and I can't remember, it's the Santa Maria de something. And when that was in the church, no, it was something, it's in here someplace. It's in one of these pamphlets. They donated it to the church at St. Anthony's in Pecos. And every year they get together. The Native Americans come from Jemez, and the people of the Pecos, the Hispanic people of the Pecos community, walk the 2.5 miles from Pecos to that church that we saw. And the one that's empty, the only the walls there. And they they have a church service in that at I think it's just after, it's in the morning. I don't think it's a sunrise service, but they get together every year to kind of hold this thing together the way it's described. Let's see. Every August, the village of Pecos fulfills its promise to perpetually honor the saint by celebrating a feast day mass in the remains of the final church. After the mass, the Pueblo of Jemez often honors the place through traditional dances, prayers, and blessings. In this sense, Pecos has not been abandoned at all. The Pueblo and its people have simply parted company. And what was another thing that was interesting when I was talking with her, I asked the question, when was the Pueblo finally abandoned? And I used that word, and she said, we don't use the word abandoned. And she says we use the word relocated because it isn't abandoned. There are still people that come back to it every year to kind of spiritually sanctify the location. So it's a really interesting place, and it's very informative. The rangers were all very informative, although none of them would do an interview on camera because there was only one. The day that I went, there was only one of them there. And as you can see, when I walked up to him, it was very busy. He did help me once I got in. And the rest were what they call rangers in training. So they couldn't do it. So he gave me the phone number he gave me Becky's phone number, and I reached out to her. Actually, I sent her an email first, and she called me back on Monday and agreed to do a telephone interview. It wasn't the audio, of course, wasn't the best. I tried to do a little processing on it, but everything I did just seemed to make it worse. So the other thing, I told you about the fishing, and once I find out more about it and I actually get boots on the ground, I'll let you know what it's like. Because it's further south of Pecos, and there's a point at which Pecos gets so hot that it doesn't support trout, and it gets so low because a lot of the farmers in the Pecos area use it for agricultural purposes. But I think it's worth the trip. You do have to pay $15, and you get from 8:30 to 4:30 on a single beat, they call it. It's a single area along that river, along the Pecos, that's inside the park. So I've never been there, didn't even know it existed. And I've done a lot of fishing on the Pecos, both with my father and alone, and with Shelley sometimes. Huh? We've been on the Pecos together. Yeah. Dalton, you're named after your family. Yeah.
Lots of buggies there that day.
Yeah, there always is. So as I find out more about it, I'll let you guys know. The season closes November 7th, so it's got to happen before then. I think the 7th is Monday.
Yep. So I think Adelkan was suggesting we check out Acoma. I think it was about 2008. I took my daughter and her Girl Scout troop to Acoma, to Sky City, and we did the tour. So I have been there and heard the stories. So
which direction is that?
it's
I
on
know
your
we
way
go
to
through-
Grants.
Is okay. That
Yeah.
sounds familiar because I know you can actually see it from the highway, or no, you can't see
Not
it,
really.
but you see the advertising.
Right.
Right, they
Right.
promote it. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we'll take it to go.
You know what?
There.
Then what's fun is that little hotel in Gallup, where they had all the movie stars stay there, and they named the rooms after the different movie stars.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The only hotel I've ever been in Gallup is the one where they have the that fair for the Spanish colonial artists there. So, Colorado says it is stunning scenery, you guys. The reason is because of its location. And while she was talking, and while I was doing all this research on it, I realized, like, if you've ever heard of that location in Jordan called Petra, that was this focal point for commerce as the travelers along the various commercial routes would stop at Petra, and they'd have a place to stay and places to get water and food and entertainment, etc. This sounded a lot like that because it was at the focal point for the trade between the Plains Indians and the Pueblo Indians, and they both had different things to bring to the table. And there are paintings of these tribal events where there were the Plains Indians with their teepees meeting with the Puebloan Indians, and they had their own form of portable hut. I wouldn't call it a teepee, but that's where all this trade was taking place. The other thing about Pecos is it had an army of 500 trained warriors. So they could take on any other of the Puebloan tribes, none of whom had warriors this size. Now, the Comanches, the Apaches, the Plains Indians that were horse warriors were probably bigger, but along the Puebloans, the Pecos, the tribe at Pecos was the most militarily powerful, although they didn't seem to use it much. They weren't expansive in that nature. So it was an important location because of the fact that it was just down below the Glorieta Pass, which is what you go through when you go. It's funny from Santa Fe because you drive from Albuquerque, you drive from Santa Fe, and then you have to drive southeast in order to go through the pass, and then you go up towards I-25. So if you've ever made the trip from Denver to Santa Fe or vice versa, you've gone through Glorieta Pass, and you always wonder, why do I have to drop down there and then back up again? Yeah. So Las
Vegas.
Any place along I-25, all of those places along I-25, because you couldn't build enough locations in the mountains, so they went east of the mountains. That's that route that goes up from Glorieta through Las Vegas and then up through Raton, and there's the point at which you have to go through a pass. There's a couple of them. One is Raton Pass, where I-25 is. There's another one, I think it's 85 or 285, that goes through La Vida Pass. And that was the run I remember taking with my dad when we used to go to the auctions in Denver, La Vida Pass. So it is a beautiful location. I'm sorry I got there after everything had kind of turned brown, but it's still, as you looked out into the mountains, it's one of the prettiest locations in that part of New Mexico. I started with this one, posting the photos to the photos page for New Mexico Day Trips, and I posted the links to that in the chat room, https://photos.app. And when you get there, it's going to look like that. And these are just the images that I took. Every time we go, Shelley and I take still images of where we were, just so that we have those for a reference, and sometime we have to use them in the videos. What I did get a couple of ones inside the Kiva, and then these are just the pictures. I asked Becky to send me a photo that I could use for the beginning of the interview, so people had a good idea who she was, and I put that in there as well. So if you want to take a look at those photos, they're full-size photos. So if you take them up and open it, you'll get a full-size photos. This is me. This is the setup for the time lapse. That's a DJI Pocket 2, which is the compact version of their gimbal camera. But it's a lot of fun to use. It's very good, high quality, and very light and easy to use. So most of the footage that you saw in today's show was a combination of the DJI Pocket 2, which is the handheld gimbal, and the other one was the DJI Osmo Action, which is their version of GoPro. They call it the Action 3. And it's the one that's mounted on the truck when I do the time lapses or whenever you see truck motion. And you also, you chesty, there's a mount that you put, you saw it in that last image. So you can put it on there, and it's very stable. It has its own stabilizer. It's not a gimbal by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very stable. So you put it on the chest mount, just walk around with it, and you get some usable footage. As a matter of fact, the coffee making scene, that was all done with the chesty. So
it's a funny name.
That's what they call it. That's what they call it. As a matter of fact, when we were at the VLA, I was coming out around a corner, and some guy in his early 30s with a family goes, "Hey, nice chesty."
Good thing it was you and not a girl.
Yeah,
that was
good
wearing
point.
it.
Yeah, like, nice. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so then the last thing that I wanted to mention to you is that you heard her say that museum quality gallery that they have in the back, it's behind the bookstore, and they're going to take it all apart. They're going to take it down. It's been there for 40 years. So I do want to mention, if you do go look up when you're in the bookstore, the chandeliers, my mother made those chandeliers. And I remember going there as a child, and she would show them to us. We'd go there, and I posted a picture of Pecos on my Instagram account, and my niece, who lives in California, she said when I was there, she's in her 40s now. She said, I remember going to visit Grandma, and she would take us there, and she would show us the chandeliers. So that was kind of a nice story. But they're beautifully made, as usual with my mother's work. My mother was a perfectionist when it came to that stuff. But you heard her say they're taking that whole gallery, that museum-style gallery in the back, down for a variety of reasons. I don't want to be critical of the reasons. It's just old, and it could be updated in a variety of ways, not only in terms of content, but in terms of utility and access and things like that. It's not going to open again. The revised one is not going to open again until the spring of 2023. And so when you're doing,
you want to see it all, don't go until then.
Right. Or go before Monday, because that's when it closes. So, when you're doing the actual interview, you're asking questions, and people will say things, and it doesn't stick in your head. You're just trying to figure out what's the next question, or what's the follow-on question, or, what can I ask that'll elicit more information? And I wasn't paying attention when she said that. And then afterwards, as I was editing it, it hit me like, oh, that thing is going away on Monday. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting to go on Friday, because that's the day we have available, and document that entire place in photos. Go and just take pictures of all the material that's there and put it up in one of these albums on our our New Mexico Outdoors photo page. And the reason I suggest that is because I called Becky and I asked her if I could do that. And she said, that's what's such a wonderful idea. I don't think so. The University of New Mexico is taking down the exhibits and documenting them, I guess, and then holding them until sometime in the future when somebody else could use them, because that's what universities do. They want to maintain that history. And she said, but that would be great. Would you share the photos with us? And I said, of course I would. So she said, what day do you plan to come? I said, Friday. And she said, that will be good, because Monday, you won't have access to it anymore. And so she agreed to let me do it. I don't know if I need her help, but what I decided to do, and I talked it over with Shelley, is we're going to go, and that's going to be our New Mexico day trip for next week. We're going to go back there. We're not going to do as much with the site itself. We're going to go in and we're going to document the contents of that museum before it's taken down. And Shelley's going to be there doing the behind the scenes and shooting all the other stuff. And so that next week we can talk to you about documenting it. And I'm expecting literally to take hundreds of photos. And so I'll edit them before the show, and we'll make a short video, and then we'll share the photos with you guys. I don't know if you'll ever have a need for them. I don't know if anybody will ever have a need for them, but I don't want to be the guy that said, I knew it was going to be taken down, and I didn't do anything about it. So whether it has a purpose or not, back in I think it was 1982 or 1983, I had come back to New Mexico to visit my family. And when I visited, my mother said there is an exhibit of the Delgado tin work in the governor's gallery and in the new roundhouse. At that time, it was the new roundhouse. And the governor's gallery was on the governor's floor, and it was opposite the governor's office. And it was a gallery that was changed every month. And this month was all the Delgado's tin work. And it had my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my mother, 3 of my uncles, and 1 of my brothers. And I went back and I said, you know, I really need to document it. And there's a picture of a mirror. It's a photograph of a mirror, and you can see me and my camera in the photograph. And look this up when you get a chance. Mamiya C330. That was the camera I was using. It was a single lens reflex 120 film camera. And I documented every one of those pieces and every one of the little cards that went along with the pieces as they described it. And several times, it's a book. If I wanted to make a book, I could do it because I had every significant Delgado piece of tin that they had made. They acquired stuff from all over to do this roundhouse gallery thing, governor's gallery thing. And I documented it. And about once every 4 years, I get a call from someone who's doing research into New Mexico Spanish colonial arts. And they say, we heard that you took pictures of all the Delgado tin work. Can we use them for our book? And that material has appeared in at least 3 books that I'm aware of. It may have been more because I had it up on Google for a long time, so anybody had access to it. And I'm hoping that one day somebody will call and say, hey, we heard that you and Shelley took pictures of all the stuff that was in that gallery at the Visitors Center, and it's gone now. Nobody has access to it. We wondered if you share pictures. So I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that says, you know what? I do have that.
There's a question.
Let's see. This is from Paul. He says, do you plan to do a show on the area around Old Mountain View Ranch up Pecos Canyon? So I wanted it, Paul, the answer is yes. What's interesting is that the Pecos Canyon, the canyon in which the Pecos River runs, there are, I don't know, 10 places from Pecos all the way up to Torero that you could do stories on independently. So I think what we have to do is come spring, assuming we can get back up there, because a lot of that area, unless you live up there, you can't go up the river, at least the last time I checked, because of the fires that were last summer in that area. So I don't know if it's back to being open yet, but I would like to do a day on the Pecos River up that canyon from the town of Pecos all the way up to Torero, because I've fished all along that area. And I also want to go to that area above Jack's Run, I think it's called, because that's where the haunted area is. There's a haunted area up there. And I'd like to do an overnight camp there. So just for the heck of it.
With the ghosties?
With the ghosties, yeah. So yeah, anytime you guys, Shelley has said this before, and I guess it is worth mentioning again, anytime you guys have an idea in New Mexico that you'd like to hear or learn more about, let us know. We'll put the Old Mountain View Ranch. Pecos was already the Pecos
Holy Ghost.
Holy Ghost Canyon. Yeah.
Jack's Creek.
Yeah, Jack's Creek. But there's a camping area up off of Jack's Creek.
I think Paul needs to be your partner.
As you go to,
he knows more about it than I do.
Well, he knows if he's fished on that. The Holy Ghost Canyon is where that haunted area is, and it's based. And there's 2 different ways the story is told. Either a bunch of Christian or Catholic friars killed a bunch of Indians, or vice versa. But what they left behind was the ghosts from whatever that event was. And if you go up there, and they say if you stay up late enough at night, you'll be able to see and hear the ghosts. So that's
scary.
At Holy Ghost Canyon. So that's Holy Ghost is one of the tributaries up that leads into the Pecos up north. So my dad used to fish the Holy Ghost. He just loved that creek for fishing. And it's a little tiny thing. You have to fish it with a
little tiny rod, and a little tiny.
No, you do. You just have to stand back, but it's not a dry fly. It's a nymph. Yeah, a French nymph.
Well, can move the comment back off.
Okay. Okay, so I did go into the store. Make sure you go into the visitor center. You'll get a free pamphlet, which is very comprehensive, including a map of the location. They don't have a map of the site on this one, but they do talk a lot about the location and its history. This is the one that you need to get. This is the Ancestral Sites Trail Guide. As she said, they have a 1.25 mile loop that you can walk that starts either at the visitor center, or if you don't want to start there, you can actually go park. There's a parking area and picnic tables right over by where you saw the church. And that's where I started. So I started at that area and then walked around the loop, walked around the shorter of the two loops around the two Pueblo areas up here. So, and it has these numbered stops along the way. So as you see the blue signs on the ground, you can read exactly what you're looking at. That's $2, but it's worth every penny. What?
Another comment you might see.
Let's see. So Paul says, do you know that Oppenheimer tried to put in Los Alamos in that area? Oh, no, I didn't. That strikes me. Oppenheimer was a fly fisherman. He was an outdoorsman. And it wouldn't surprise me that he would try to want to be there. There's a great story along with a ranch, guy by the name of Tex Austin. It was a made-up name. He had come from the
Sounds
east.
like a made-up name.
Yeah, he wore a big cowboy hat, taught himself how to ride a horse and things like that. He bought some land to make a ranch. That ranch, he eventually ran out of money, and that was the ranch that was sold to Greer Garson and her husband. And then before she died, she passed it on to the trust, the Western Park Association. They're the guys that published this book. Western National Parks Association Trust. And so that's where the ranch is, the Forks Lightning Ranch. That's Tex Austin's ranch. And that's where you can go fishing. That's one of the parts that you can drive to. You can actually drive down, not quite to the river, but within 1/4 mile of it. And it's not unusual to hike to it. So still thinking about it. So Paul, thank you for that. Yeah, I don't know. See, that's interesting because I don't know that it's higher. I'm going to have to look at that because Los Alamos is pretty high, right? We were in Santa Fe at 7,000 feet, and I kind of remember driving up to Los Alamos. I got to remember my uncle Albert, who served in the Navy, and then when he retired from the Navy, he went to work at Los Alamos as a not a mechanic, but he used to make stuff with machines. What a machinist. That's what he was in the Navy. But he had a ranch up there, the hot dog ranch. Are you being serious? That's pretty cool. Wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me that Oppenheimer did that. He certainly did have a love for the mountains and kind of the New Mexico style of mountains. So it wouldn't surprise me. And it's not it would be, well, it depends on the road. Back in the roads back then to Los Alamos were pretty messy, but you could be, at most 2.5 hours away from Los Alamos to this area along the Pecos. So we'll see. We'll take a look at that. So anyway, take a look at those pictures. Some of them are pretty good. If you want to use them, put them up on your wall. Just let me know and I'll sign up for you. Okay. What else? Oh, I do want to show you what I got. So I did get.
Toby got more toys. It's
man.
Books.
Wealth of books.
You got toys in the other room.
These are toys I left in the other room. So I got New Mexico, a history written by the guys that are supposed to have written the book on it. You hear a lot about the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. I've always heard about it growing up, and that's how my family ended up here, because it was Don Diego de Vargas, with whom both the Espinosas and the Delgado with that was responsible. That's what Fiesta is all about. The Santa Fe Fiesta, it celebrates the, quote, reconquest, the Native Americans don't like that, unquote, of the bloodless reconquest of Santa Fe. And that was around 1690, 1693. But it was after this revolt where a lot of Native Americans killed a lot of Hispanics. And I knew it happened, but I didn't know a lot of the details. The the guy that started it was a radical. His name was Popey. And he organized all the other tribes to conduct the revolt at the same time. So then I got this on the Pueblo Nations because I am 12.5% Native American. I want to learn more about my history on that side. And then I got some things for Shelley and I. So this one is called Scenic Driving in New Mexico because it's all about New Mexico day trips. And then also New Mexico Journey Guide. So this has interesting journeys that you can take. Oh, it has beautiful color pictures too. Look at that. That you can take. It makes suggestions where you should go. And I found a new one on there for another site. This one, here's what's great about this one, New Mexico history. So I thought, well, if you have New Mexico history, the Delgados, and Delgado should be in here. So I checked it out. Sure enough, on page 254, it says, and I'm going to read it to you, the works of, so they were talking about the arts of the time and how the Spanish colonial artists weren't coming out. So he wrote, I'm not going to read the whole thing, Contra Ortiz's opinion, revitalized Spanish colonial artistic motifs foundered with their passing. With the advent of the WPA Federal Art Project, however, a cadre of young, talented Hispanic men and women established solid reputations as contemporary and traditional artists. The works of painters Esquipula Romero de Romero, Pedro Lopez Cervantes, and Juan Amadeo Sanchez. Aren't those great names?
Amadeo.
Sculptor Patrocinio Varela, weaver Max Ortiz, and tinsmith Ildiberto Eddie Delgado. That was my grandfather. So we got mentioned in the book that's titled The New Mexico History. How's that?
There you go.
So that was pretty cool. Anyway, it was a very fruitful visit. This one.
So Jody's here.
Jody's here.
Mark at my looks like a crazy woman. No, actually, it was John Miller's.
Oh, this one.
Comment. Sent you a text about our trip this week. How's Shelley's mom doing? She's doing better. I think she walked about 50 feet with a cane, which is a big deal for her. She calls me once a week, and usually in the afternoon when she's, getting towards, it's almost bedtime for her, and she'll call me and she can have a good conversation for about 10 to 15 minutes, which is way more than she could do before this. But she still, wishes she could do more. She's frustrated that that it's taking so long. But when you're 80, well, you got but time. So I mean, it's okay. She's doing okay. Thanks for asking.
So their challenge coins is funny because you'd think it'd have like the church on it or something like that. On the front, it has the Zia symbol, the red on yellow, which is New Mexico, and it says Pecos National Historical Park, New Mexico. But on the back, it has the Battle of Glorieta Pass and the date of that. It was one of those Civil War battles that we talked about when we were doing the Fort Craig
last week.
Last week mentioned it there. So, but that was what they had. And that's
Pat
what I say.
Barella is my great grandpa.
Pat Barella. Oh, that Pat, did we just mention his name?
I don't remember that.
Patricio Patrocinio? I think it was.
Oh. I don't know. You were just trilling all your letters. So
Patrocinio Varela.
Oh.
He was a sculptor. Is that right? Sculptor? So they have others listed here in similar fashion. Local Indian artists, some of whom Dorothy Dunn and Jeronima Cruz Montoya, nurtured in their studio at the Santa Fe Indian School.
My name is Inigo Montoya. Killed my father. Prepare to die.
I don't think that's the name that they used.
Oh.
It was Garcia, wasn't it?
No. Ask them.
Yeah.
What was the guy in The Princess Bride?
Oh.
Was it Inigo Montoya?
Inigo isn't even a name.
Inigo?
Yeah. It's not a name. It doesn't translate to anything.
Well,
like if you were to say, Siri,
my name doesn't translate to anything.
What is
either.
No, in Spanish you're Chile.
No.
No, I just made that.
No, I'm not. In fact, my Spanish teacher tried to assign names to everybody, transfer it over. Like Daisy was Margarita, Frank was Paco, and then he got to me and he's like, Concha. And I'm like, what?
Like the thing on the belt?
Because the shell. It's a shell. So yours, I'm like, no, that's not it at all.
Patrocinio Varela, the sculptor, his great grandpa. See, so we have relatives here. History, brothers and sisters, history, because history matters. There's a guy on.
Does it? It's just a mist now. It's just floated away.
No, man, it's there. There's much to be learned.
Only
from
there in the book.
I don't know how you go there. I don't know how you go there. And I'll tell you, I had a moment.
You just went there. You know how to go there.
I had a moment in the Kiva.
A moment.
Yeah, like a moment.
With the
like,
whistle. Ooh.
And then there was like a wind blowing through it. That vent in the back, so there's always wind coming through there because that fed the fire. And the idea was to get the smoke out through the hole in the roof. But if you just stand there for a moment, you start imagining like there's something here, and you know me, I'm not that kind of person.
Yes, you are.
I am not.
Remember that dream you were telling me about? Come on.
Yeah.
Very spiritual. You just don't like to admit to it. Wood carving artists.
Well, that's what they do call them. They do call them sculptors. I mean, if you're wood carving, the way you see them, there's some beautiful wood carvers at the traditional Spanish market every year. So Colorado, I'm going to just call them Colorado for short, or CM.
I think Colorado's the easiest.
Yeah, thanks for
We don't have anybody else with that name, so why not?
It was sad that Shelley wasn't there with me because you always want to, when you're excited about something like this, and I was really excited. You could tell just my conversation that I was having with the folks, and the fact that I want to go back and document something that's going to be torn down. I don't know what kind of crazy that is, but it could be kind of crazy. I'm not sure. I won't know until we do the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my
look forward to a crazy show next
big
week.
Cameras and big flashes and lots of batteries, and I'm going to document
soft boxes and
soft boxes. They can't. I don't know if they're going to let me do that. Usually, it's really funny because normally when you walk into a museum, they say no flash because every one of those flash diminishes the image. And
Right.
My argument is going to be they're tearing it down on Monday, so. But Becky and I
it's coming back in the spring.
Becky, it's a whole new, literally
all new
from scratch.
Okay.
So we'll have to see. We'll go back to make the comparison, see if it's better or worse.
There you go.
There's a lot of good stuff in there that they're going to have to do something with.
Yes.
It's going to be put someplace. Pots and swords.
Swords.
There were Civil War era swords there.
Glass boxes.
Lots of glass boxes.
Those have to go somewhere.
Glass boxes. So anyway, I'm going to spend tomorrow while you're working on processing our show from tomorrow. I'm going to spend that putting the kit together for.
Speaking of our
Friday.
show tomorrow, 1:00, Messages and Methods, we're going to be talking about content creators.
The content creator report. Yeah.
The business of content creating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to do, so it's a report that just came out. I'm not sure that I agree with everything, but it's based on research. So I don't have the research to prove it wrong.
Well, it depends on
but
who
we're
they
going to go
asked.
through, we're going to do our findings, conclusions, and recommendations, just like we were real analysts, like back in the old days. So,
if you're interested, be there.
I want to show these guys this picture.
If you're not interested, be there anyway.
Be there anyway, because we have a lot of fun.
Just to have fun.
What are you doing at 1:00 tomorrow afternoon? Look at this picture.
Yes, John, where did you go? I know he sent you a text. Did you get a text? Where's your phone?
I don't know. It's not here. I left it outside. So
that's what happens.
Cool picture. Anyway, you guys have access to them. I posted the link to the photographs in the chat room. Babies.
Yes, your little baby, Maddie was sick, stayed home sick today.
How did you know that? How did you know that?
Facebook.
You know more about my family than I do. Jump and Gemini.
Facebook.
Okay, are you ready to say goodbye?
I am ready.
I think I've talked about this enough. You can tell how excited I am about it, but I probably can't.
He loves the Pecos because it brings back memories of his dad and him going fishing.
So I will take the video and put that up separately. I did realize that I was watching it. I have one scene that I used twice, and I'll correct that, and then I'll put it up. So if you just want to watch the video. Yeah. See, if Shelley had been there, she would have gone like, "Ew, don't do that."
No, because you would have had more footage to choose from.
True.
Yeah. Anyway,
True.
that's all about that. Anything else?
Yeah, I want to show them one more thing.
Oh, one more thing.
So this
Fishing hole.
This is one of the fishing holes along that stretch
the
of the
fishing
river.
beats.
Now, concerns me right here. That's very low water.
Very low.
Fly fishing or not,
Ankle deep.
That's very low water. But I think it's worth it. I have a disabled veterans license, which is a lifetime fishing license. That's all I need. But if nothing else, I think it's going to make some great photography, some great time lapses.
Nice picnic. You can make me lunch.
Yeah, I could make you. I could feed you. I could feed you again. Feed me. All right.
Feed me.
Let me
some
take
more.
down my banner here
Oh.
and go back to there and do an outro. All right. Say your good nights.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight on New Mexico Day Trips. And we hope that you'll come back next week for part 2 of the excitement of Pecos and what'd you call it? The National Historic Park.
I was corrected. National Historical.
Oh, it's Historical Park.
Yeah.
I missed that.
So scene 2, think of it this way. Come back and see the guy that was dumb enough to take pictures of the thing they're going to tear
Yeah,
down.
but we can do fishing too.
We can do fishing. It won't be the same
And
day.
make food.
And we can make food. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going to do the behind the scenes thing while I'm taking pictures. You're going to be going, Toby snuck up on that picture like it never saw him coming.
Silly.
We'll mic us both. Up.
Uh-huh.
So we can have a conversation
Yeah.
while I'm doing.
Okay.
All right.
He's
All right,
got
guys.
Plans.
We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock for messages and methods. And then again next week on Wednesday night. Make sure you look for Shelley's show. She had a great show today. Look Shelley's show up at 4 o'clock.
Look, Shelley Show.
Shelley Carney, live stream coach.
That's right.
As usual, very
We
informative.
talked about burnout. Don't get burned out.
Exactly. And she's giving you that from the experience of having burned out several times herself, plus the fact that as a result, she's a life coach. So
Well,
that's how she became a life coach. She just got tired of being burned out all the time.
oh yeah, burnout.
Yeah.
Burnout.
It's a burnout.
Burnout.
We used to
What do you
call her.
that?
We used to call her burnout queen.
Oh, that sounds bad.
And none of that is true.
Nope.
All right. Good night, guys. We love you.